Wonderful morning to everyone and to our beautiful and sparkling fairies. Welcome again to the Book Fairies Literature Circle. So, in the last discussion, we are able to finish the story entitled Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Today, we are about to open another interesting book that you will surely like. But before that, have you noticed this object that I'm still holding right now? Very good. Yes, this is a stuffed toy, a horse stuffed toy. So let me share something about it to you. So this stuff has been a very important part of my life. It reminds me of my happy memories when I was still a kid. I used to play this stuff with my childhood friends, and it just feels so good to remember those old but gold memories that I still cherish until today. Speaking of childhood years, past memories, our story today will also talk about the joys of childhood when the world is full of wonders and the children are free of the responsibilities of adulthood. Now, let me introduce to you our story entitled The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. So, are you ready now to listen and understand the ideas and lessons about this story? If yes, let us learn together as we start our discussion to our discussion delegator, which is me. Hi again, everyone. I'm your fairy Micah, your discussion delegator. So I've prepared 3 questions for you to answer. So let's start with number 1. The question is, if you can still recall your childhood memories, what does you and Tom have in common or you can relate the most and why? So, can I ask Miss Rhoda to answer the question?
So, what my childhood experience and Tom have in common is that being an adventurous child. So, like Tom, I also have many adventure in my home place, like wandering in my friend's farm, getting vegetables and fruits, swimming in the river, and exploring without the consent of my parents because I know they will not let me go with them. And I also have my experimentation, just what I seen in the movie or the Disney channels, which is not a good idea without an elder guiding me.
Thank you, Rhoda. So, what you and Tom have in common is being adventurous in your childhood years. So, you love hanging out with your friends in their farms, picking up fruits and vegetables, and even swimming in the river without the permission of your parents. So, most of kids do that, no? I myself did that as well. So, that is very true, no? Kids tend to live without the permission of their parents because they know that if they tell, of course, they won't let them go and visit places far from their home. Kay basin, maunsa mo dito, so their parents cannot immediately rescue them. So parents are just being so protective to their kids. Living without the permission of your parents is not really a good idea, especially for kids. So thank you, Rhoda, for your answer. Now let's ask Miss Elia. Can you share your answer, Miss Elia?
So Tom and I have in common in a way that both of us likes to express things um, by doing things that we should do as a kid. Before I like to go to the mountain, um, getting some wild fruits without asking permission, and most of the time my mother is always scold me. So perminti ko niya kasukan, it's because dili ko niya makitaan sa balay kay magsige ko laag kay laagan naman ko with my friends. So aside from kung dili man gani sa mountain, so aside from mountain, most of the time makakitagid mo na ako before sa street. So usahay kung makuanay gyud is maabot na ko sa beach with my friends. So magbike-bike me, or like o magbike-bike ganahan hindi mi magbike-bike ambot sa asa mi maabot. So especially dili gyud ko mananghid kay kung mananghid ko di mo ko sultan. So nganong mananghid lang ko so man yung thinking before. So murag for me same na siya ka Tom kasi Tom kay laagan pud ba niya siya sa maabot siya bugay-bugay but kumusod ko klase before. But looking back, so parang nag-looking back ko, um, it is when I feel the happiest na experience na ko sa life because I'm not worrying about something. I'm not worrying about my food, my clothes, yeah, koan, kanang worrying about something na karon adult na nako na experience.
Thank you, Elia, for your answer. So the same with Frodo, no? You also love to go to the mountains to pick some fruits and vegetables without the permission again to your parents. So it's natural siguro, no, nga kids are like to explore, to try new things, because they are very curious about the things that surrounds them. So at this point, ng ani ang mga bata, it's really important that they are properly guided by their parents. So, yan ano, dapat yun sila, kinahanglan silang guidance kay wala pa sila kay bawon sa maayo o unsay dili. So, ato, ilaya no, at that point of your life, you are much focused on the enjoyment, such as fun activities that surely give you happy memories. Tama, no? So, thank you, Elaya.
Thank you, ma'am.
So now let's proceed to Miss Paula. So can you share your answer to us?
Yes. So for me, I used to be like Tom when I was young, like him. I was very imaginative, playful, creative, clever, and act according to what I want. So I was living in a childhood life without worrying what others or what adults think or worry, like money, job, and many more. So just like Tom, as he imagined being a parrot in his adventure, I also imagined being a princess saved by a prince. So it was a place for me that grown ups don't understand. That's all.
Okay, that's a good point, Paula. Thank you for that. So you mentioned that you are like Tom because you are imaginative and playful as well. So it's true, no, that kids are not yet too busy about worrying about their future like what adults do. They are still imagining things that they think they can have in the future. So just like Tom, no, in the story, he was imagining himself as a pirate. And sa imo sad, Paula, when you were still a kid, you imagine yourself as a princess with a prince. So when it comes with kids, no, there is no limit to their imagination. They imagine dragons, dinosaurs. So it's really rich and active. So thank you for that, Paula. Now let's proceed to Miss Freya. So can we have your answer, Miss Freya? Can you share it to us?
For me, it was when they went to the island with Tom's friend. I had a similar adventure with my friends at my cousin's house, where we explored because my cousin's house is so large. That was a lot of fun for me because it felt like an adventure. I was able to see and explore new things. We spent the entire day bonfiring, talking about our lives, and having fun.
Wow, I like that, Freya. So you can really relate to Tom when you had a visit to your cousin's house with your friends. You consider it as an adventure like what Tom had in the island. You were able to explore and had a great fun and bond with your friends and cousins. So that's nice, no? Thank you for that answer, Freya. So now let's proceed to the question number two. So our question number two is, how does Aunt Polly similar to other parents in raising their child? Explain your answer. So may I ask Miss Paula to answer the question? Can you share your answer, Miss Paula?
So for me, Aunt Polly are like any other parents. Though her ways wasn't perfect in disciplining Tom, but deep inside, she is quite simple and kind-hearted. That she still loves Tom despite Tom misbehaving and defying her authority. So the strictness of our parents shows us, helped us grow as a child, and help us realize what was right and wrong based on our behavior. So though there are many ups and downs, most parents don't know how to express their love, but they are trying their best to be good parents. That's all.
Very good, Paula. It's true that parents are not perfect, just like Aunt Polly. She sometimes makes mistakes to Tom. But we know that she really loves him so much despite of her strict rules and punishments to him. Parents are like that. They just wanted us to learn from our mistakes and become responsible individuals. Sometimes they just don't know how to express their loves towards us. But sure enough, they're trying their best to become good parents. Okay, so thank you, Paula, for your answer. Now, may I ask Miss Freya, can you give your answer to the class?
And Puli, like other parents, raises their children by taking good care of them and imposing limits on what they can and cannot do.
Good job, Freya. Parents are really trying their best to raise their kids well and putting limits to what they can and they cannot do. The same goes with their kids. They are imposing rules for what they can and they cannot do in order to discipline them. So that is how it is, no? So thank you, Freya, for your answer. Now let's ask Miss Rhoda. Can you share your answer to us?
Okay, so just like other parents, Aunt Puli is a strict guardian towards his nephews and give an assigned task as punishment to make them learn from their mistakes. And even though she is not the parent, his love towards his nephews is unconditional.
Yes, that's right, Rhoda. It is really necessary to put punishments for the mischiefs in order to learn, though it was part of the process for personal growth. They did that, or parents did that, because they cared for their kids and they loved them unconditionally. They wanted them to be on the right path of life. So that is it. So thank you, Rhoda. Now let's ask Miss Eleya. Can you share your answer to us?
So Aunt Polly is just like any other parents. They wanted to give everything to them. They are scolding them, not because they didn't love them, but because they just wanted you to be a good person and to learn your mistakes, especially that you're still a kid or a child. So they wanted you to learn things and you should know what is right or wrong or unsay mga butanga dapat nimo buhaton o dili nimo buhaton especially nga bata pa ka. So sila they are guardians or advisors or nurse and everything you can name. So nana sila ganon ang mga profession nila especially our mothers. Then um, even though that sometimes we feel that he doesn't love us, it's because buhay man lang kita, rebellious sometimes, but they just want you to be a good child, especially when you grow up. And they are always there to take care of you, especially if you're getting sick, and, and support also. They are always there to support you.
Very good, Elea. So the same, no? Scolding and punishments are their way to show their care, despite being hard-headed, of a lot of mischiefs. We can assure that our parents will be there for us to help us no matter what happens. So, nga ka unconditional ang love for us. Any parents or guardians who cared for us, they will do that no matter what to help us to overcome the trials and troubles that we are facing. So, yan ang ilang love para nato. So, thank you, Leia. Now, let's proceed to the question number 3. So, the third question is, if you're Tom, what are the actions or decisions you think you should be proud of and which should not? How can you apply these lessons to your life? So let me ask um, Freya May to answer the question.
Telling the truth when I see bad things is a decision I should be proud of. The decision I should be ashamed of is my arrogance in not informing my parents of my plans. I learned and applied this to my life from Tom because the consequences of not telling the truth will consume me for the rest of my life, as well as telling my parents where I am going.
Yes, that's right, Freya. No, telling the truth is one of the decisions that you should be proud of. Just like Tom in exposing the real culprit or suspect of the crime. Though he puts his life at risk, but he know that he was doing the right thing. So kids know at the very young age should know the value of honesty, no? And of course, it is not really good idea to live at home without the permission of our parents because surely they will be worried about you. And it is not good to cause them trouble and worries, diba? So thank you, Freya, for your answer. I really appreciate that. So now let's ask Miss Rhoda. Can you share your answer?
Okay, so if I were Tom, what I should be proud of is being honest and unselfish person. A good person that honesty will eventually save other people like what he did to Mr. Mouth. And unselfish who truly cares and never leave anyone behind in trouble. And what I should not be proud of is going somewhere without telling my parents or guardians.
That's a very good reflection, Radha. You have learned in Tom's character how important it is to become honest and unselfish. You have to put others first than yourself because you know that they need the help the most. And of course, like Freya, no, you have mentioned that it is important na mga tao permission sa atong parents when we leave, no? So they have the right to know. Our parents have the right to know because we are their responsibility, diba? So muna sa job. Thank you, Rhoda. Now let's proceed to Elia. Elia, can I hear your answer?
So the action that I am most proud of if I were Tom is that I can be wiser than anybody else. I can think of imaginable things and importantly, even though that I face a lot of challenges in my life, I can still be a jolly person. So even though it is also hard for you, but you still think of the positive side, especially that bata ka pa, you can do a lot of things. And the thing that I'm not proud of is having nakay-pride nga pagkatao. And even though the sometimes it's tough, you always hide it to be you always hide it. It's because you're a jolly person. So a lot of people may think that you're just you're okay, even though that you can feel you can feel that you're tired. Sometimes you're weak. So in applying these lessons in my life as a grown woman today, you can be jolly and you can hide your emotion, but set aside your pride when you can't take it anymore. As a grown woman, you face a lot of challenges and you even doubting yourself as a human or as a person itself. It is hard, it's tough, but you have your family, yourself, and always pray to God.
Fantastic, Leia. So it is really good to be wise, no? But use it in a good way or intention. And of course, it is also good to live life with happiness, just like the life of Tom, that despite of the challenges, still you can see a smile on his face. And of course, you mentioned earlier about pride. So pride can ruin a person. No, that is true, Alea. No, that we have to set aside our pride when we feel that we cannot make it anymore, or we feel stressed, or we can't make it with our problems, because by that way, um, help will come over to you. No, Anna. So we have to set aside our pride so that help will come. Okay, so thank you, Elia, for your wonderful answer. Now let's proceed to Miss Paula. Miss Paula, can I hear your answer?
For me, if I were Tom, the decision that I think I would be proud of is being brave in telling the truth. So, Tom himself was being brave in telling the truth when he decided to testify what he witnessed in the graveyard, which is a murder scene. So, telling the truth needs a lot of bravery. So, because he witnessed a murder scene, which is very scary sight for him. So, but if I were to stay silent forever, even though I know the truth, the guilt would eat me up. So, meanwhile, the decision that I think I would not be proud of is running away from home and stealing goods. Because I wouldn't want my parents to worry about my whereabouts. Because back then, in my childhood days, I almost ran away from home because I was so sick of my parents scolding me. So I thought that time they didn't love me. So I'm glad I didn't do it, because if I did, I would totally regret it.
Okay, thank you, Paula, for your amazing answer. So, just like Freya, Elia, and Rhoda, they were talking about selflessness, um, bravery, and of course, honesty. You know, honesty is really important. So, it is a decision that only few can make. So, at the very young age of Tom, no, he chose to tell the truth to save his friend. He did not think about what it cost him, because he knew that he was doing the right thing. However, running away is not really a good idea. It will not solve any problems. Parents as well must have to hear the complaints and problems of their kids. They must be sensitive. They need to create an open conversation where they can share and talk about their hatreds, about their worries, troubles. No, they need to understand one another. However, kids must know that it is not good to have hatred on their hearts. It will lead them no good. No? Hatred cannot help them. So mo na, run away na lang. Kay nag-uul, anak. No, it's not good. So we must teach kids na it's not good to have hatred in their hearts. No? So that ends my presentation. Let's move on to the next presenter, which is the literary luminary, Miss Rhoda May Andriano.
Good day, everyone. I am your Fairy Rhoda, and today I will be your literary luminary. My task is to present to you passages which is related to the story, and our story for today is about the adventures of Tom Sawyer. So I will present to you now the first passage. So we have, "How could you be so noble?" Okay, so are you familiar with this line? Okay, so this line was said by Becky Thatcher. This is the event where Becky did something wrong towards Mr. Dobbin by drawing him, and Mr. Dobbin was quite not happy about it. Mr. Dobbin was their schoolmaster who frequently punished students. So how could you be so noble? This line describes Tom Sawyer from saving the girl from the punishment. This just showed the good characteristic of Tom Sawyer for being unselfish and morally good. He was a good and honorable man who always prepared to lend a hand. So this line described Tom Sawyer's characters in the book or in the story, wherein even how adventurous and hard-headed he is, still his good side was observed by saving other people. And now let's proceed to the second passage. So we have, "Thank you, boys. You've been mighty good to me, better than anybody else in this town. You know, often I say to myself, says, I used to show the boys where the good fishing place was and befriend them when I couldn't. Now they all forget the old Muff when he's in trouble." Okay, so this line was said by Muff Potter, wherein the two boys in town who empathized him while he was in jail behind the bars. So the two boys referring to Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. So why did I choose this passage? So I choose this because the situation does not just happen in fiction or in the storybooks, but also in reality. We tend to be good to others, we are there to help and be a good friend to them, but in times of trouble, they are not there. They are nowhere to be seen. Like Muff, everyone forgot him and how good he is to others. Okay, so every one of us relate to the situation of Mr. Muff. So a lot of people was there for you in your good state, but in times of trouble, they are not there and nowhere to be seen. And that is the sad reality in our society. Okay, so we will proceed to the third passage. "And then this heroic boy actually went back into that awful darkness and somehow, some way brought our Becky out to safety." So this line was said from Judge Thatcher. He announced it to everyone how heroic Tom Sawyer is when he and Becky went into dangerous adventure inside and lost in cave and smartly find its way out from it. Okay, so Tom Sawyer being himself explored the cave with Becky. They eventually lost, and as the people trying to help them, an unexpected event happened that even more trapped the kids inside. Becky was losing hope, and Tom Sawyer was encouraging Becky to not lose hope because there's always a way for him. And even the people was hopeless outside the cave, Tom Sawyer finds its way out, never leaving behind Becky. He finds the treasure and even encounter in Jojo, the villain. He never let Becky put into trouble and get rid of Jojo from despair. At the end of it, Tom Sawyer finds its way out and came back home safely with Becky. That makes him heroic. We can sense the good character of Tom Sawyer and his adventure in the story. Thank you, and now let's proceed to our ingenious illustrator.
Good day, everyone. I am your fairy, Elia Joy Alarcalde, and I will be your ingenious illustrator for this session. I want all of you to describe your own interpretation about the picture. So first, Miss Paula.
What I can say about this drawing is that I see a pond that is surrounded by green grass, mountains, a blue sky, and lastly a fence. So the white fence was a very funny situation for me because Tom was very clever in it. So Tom was assigned by Aunt Polly to paint the fence white as a punishment. So in order to avoid his responsibility, Tom tricks a bunch of boys into thinking that work is the thing that he doesn't want to do is fun, so that he can spend his afternoon goofing around. So he even get the boys to pay him the privilege by painting. So after his goofing around, so Tom, the fence is three coats whitewashed na. That's all.
Thank you, Paula, for that wonderful interpretation. So, Paula stated about the fence. So, she finds Tom, there is a certain scenario that she finds Tom very funny and wise at the same time because he tricked his friends or some kids to do the paint of the fence. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Miss Freya, so what is your own interpretation or how can you describe the drawing that I've shown?
When I saw the picture, I was reminded of Tom's house fence and her crush when they began to express their feelings to one another. Another thing is that the small pond in the center of the field represents Tom's adventure on the island with his two friends. The good, cloudy environment represents their good adventure, which they share with meaningful childhood memories.
Thank you, Miss Freya. So Miss Freya noticed a lot of things based on the drawing or the picture that I've shown. And she even related this to the adventure of Tom Sawyer. So from the fence up to the good weather of the drawing. So first she stated about the fence, which Tom and his crush are talking. And let's proceed to the pond. There's a little pond in the center of the drawing, right? So it represents, according to Miss Freya, it represents the adventure of Tom Sawyer and his friends. And even the weather, it also represents, according to her, that it is all about how good friendship or unsa kanindot ang friendship ni Tom ug sa iyang mga friends. Thank you, Miss Freya.
Thank you, ma'am.
How about you, Miss Rhoda? What is your own interpretation based on the drawing or the picture that I've shown?
Okay, so what are my ideas about the illustration is that it is the place where the adventure of Tom Sawyer takes place. And I can also remember a scenario in the story where Tom Sawyer was tasked to whitewash the fins, so that what makes the fins colored white. And that was his punishment for skipping his class.
So, thank you, Miss Rhoda. Aside from Paula, Rhoda also noticed about the fence. So, the fence is whitewashed. According to Miss Rhoda, it is because Tom is punished by his aunt Polly because he skips a class. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And lastly, Miss Jamaica.
For me, ma'am, the drawing portrays the event in the story when Tom tricked a bunch of boys into thinking that painting the fence is fun so that he can have much time to rest and relax. He even get the boys pay him for the privilege of painting. So he turns his punishment into pleasure and even pleases Aunt Polly for the work that he did not actually do. So moreover, based on what I've read, the whitewashed fence is the reflection of Tom's character. The fence symbolizes Tom's avoidance to responsibility and as well as his sharp wit. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Jamaica. So this picture is important in the story. It's because for me, from the fence up to the mountain, it represents how adventurous Tom is. He likes to go to the river with his friends, go to the mountain, or doing a lot of things that he shouldn't do as a kid. And from the fence up to the other part, it is forget his responsibility as a kid, and he is a rebellious kid according to the story, and his aunt is always worried because of him. He didn't go to school and always go to different places with his friends, and This fence will be the basis of Tom's boundary. So it will be a boundary. It's because, as I've stated, from this part up to that part, Tom is adventurous, but this part to this part, Tom is rebellious. Even though that he is a wise kid, it is not right that he forgot that his aunt is all is always there for him. That he is quite selfish in thinking that he can do anything but not worrying how how well unsay mo feel sa iyang aunt Polly. So that's why I draw that, because I know that all of you will trigger your, or it will be trigger your imagination as what you've read the story, The Adventure of Tom Sawyer. That's all.
Good day, everyone. I am Freya, your Kent Essential Questionnaire for today. So I have here 5 questions for you to answer. Number 1 question. Explain what you like and dislike about the three boys' adventure together with Tom, Hack, and Joe. Can I hear your answer, Miss Paula?
So, what I dislike about the three boys' adventure is that though they were stranded in the island, they are unable to snap in the reality that they are in. So, they are still living in their imaginations as heroines who magically escape the island. What I like about their adventure where Tom, Huck, and Joe later realized that they missed their village. So I like this part of their adventure wherein they realize and still keep on thinking about their village, because even though their village wasn't perfect and it's a place that they do not like to be in, but still they yearn for their village as it is their home.
Okay, so what you didn't like about them is that they still exist in their imaginations as heroines who magically escaped to an island. So when we were children, we really lived in our own imaginations, which we were full of, and our friends were our most dependable in such things. It is fine for our fantasies to become reality, but we must remember that we have limitations. What you like about them is that they came to realize this after fleeing their home, village, and family. They had learned their lessons from their positive experiences on the island. Running away is not a good thing for a child to do. So despite their stubbornness, they are still a child who has a good adventure with their friends that reinforces the lessons they learned from running away. Very good, Miss Paula. It is very relatable.
Thank you, ma'am.
How about you, Miss Jamaica?
Well, for me, ma'am, what I like most about the adventure of Tom, Huck, and Joe in the island was their bravery and enjoyment. They were so brave to take the adventure on their own in the island and do many activities that gave them happy and unforgettable memories. Furthermore, they lived their life out there with fun and amazing experiences, which made their bond even stronger. But the idea that I don't like was the living without the permission of their parents or guardians, because it causes great trouble and worries to their loved ones for not knowing their location and condition. And of course, they are putting their life at risk since they don't know what danger awaits to them in that place. So that's my answer, ma'am.
What you like about their adventure, Miss Jamaica, is their bravery to survive on their own while doing such enjoyable activities on the island, which gave them happiness and unforgettable memories. Living without your parents' permissions, on the other hand, causes a lot of problems because they are concerned about the well-being of their children. It is very understandable for the parents to be angry and concerned about their children because they were children were unaware of the consequences of their actions. It is very good, Miss Jamaica.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let us continue with Miss Elejoy.
For question number one, what I like is that they still think of their families even though that they did such thing. They are rebellious. We all know that. And because of that, the three boys decided that one of them will go to the town. And Tom decided that he will be the one that will go to the town and check their family's reaction. And this is when Tom heard that his aunt is crying. It broke his heart. He wanted to embrace his aunt, but he can't do anything or he has a choice, but he chose to go back to the island because his friends are still there. What I dislike is that they didn't do anything when they realized that they are the people that their neighbors are looking. They can just simply go to the shore, shout their name, or even climb into the highest mountain just to let them see that they are there. But they didn't do anything about it.
Okay, so what you don't like, Miss Elejoy, is that they didn't do anything to prove that they were alive. Instead, they hid the fact that they were alive. What you like about them is that they consider their families in terms of how they react, feel, and perceive. The good things that happen to them are likable, but the bad things are not. So Tom and his friends made a mistake, which makes them bad children. But at the end of the day, they learned from their mistakes and are aware of their limitations. So you have explained very well, Miss Elejoy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Last but not least, Miss Rodame.
Okay, so what I like about the adventure of the three boys is where when they went to the island and playing pirates and other enjoyable activities while exploring the place. And what I don't like about it is the part where they make their families assume that they drowned. They make the whole town believe they died, where in fact they are still alive.
What you like about them, Miss Rhoda, is that they do fun things like play pirates and explore the island. And what you don't like about them is that they make their families believe they drowned. It is enjoyable for the boys to explore the island and do whatever they want. But it is not right for them to deceive their town into believing that they died simply because they were having fun on the island. They should have just done it with their parents' permission, but because they are young, they can't. But they can do it without worrying their parents. So thank you for your wonderful response, Miss Rodame.
Thank you, ma'am.
So let's proceed with question number 2. Give an example from the story of Tom's leadership when one of his friends' spirits are down. Explain whether or not he will be a good leader. Can I hear your answer, Miss Elia Joy?
So for me, Tom is a great leader because he's think of his friends feeling. Their, his friends feels lonely and bored at the same time. But Tom diverted their attention by doing something aside from swimming, which is fishing.
So, Miss Elia, your answer is that Tom makes his friends happy when their spirits are low. So that is what a good leader is for you to have in order to be called a good leader? Okay, very good, Miss Elia Joy.
Thank you, ma'am.
How about you, Miss Paula?
So for me, Tom was not being a good leader in this part of the story because when Joe and Hawk insisted on leaving because they were feeling homesick, Tom taunts them by staying in the island by sharing his secret. So for me, this part of the story, when Tom tricks by taunting or manipulating them by staying is not a good character for a leader to possess, because being a good leader is by hearing your peers' feelings, opinions, and their thoughts. But for Tom, his selfishness and bossy attitude towards his peers neglected their feelings and opinions.
Okay, so Tom's leadership isn't a good character for a leader to have because his selfishness and bossy attitude toward his friends ignored their feelings. It is true because being a good leader entails listening to your peers' feelings, opinions, and thoughts. It is not acceptable for a leader to manipulate their friends in order to keep them on board. So that is very thoughtful of you, Miss Paula.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let us continue with Miss Rhoda.
Okay, so Tom Sawyer is a natural leader. He was a kind of leader that he thinks it's effective and successful for every plan. We can observe that while knowing his every adventure, but not all of it will be approved to his fellow friends. With their own out there in that island, and at the end of their journey, still their inner self finds longing on their family. And as Tom being himself, still encouraged his friends to explore more on that island. But still, he realized that they still need to go with their family and go back home. Tom was also a child that still can't resist to go home and admit their mistakes.
Your response, Miss Rhoda, is that Tom is a good leader who is effective and successful in all of his plans, but not always because he still needs his friends' opinions on their plans. When he notices his friends' spirits are low, a good leader encourages them to explore more. So later on, they still needed and yearned for their family, and they realized their mistakes. Excellent explanation, Miss Rhoda.
Thank you, ma'am.
Last but not least, Miss Jamaica.
For me, ma'am, when one of his friends' spirits are down, Tom was really creative in making ways to persuade them not to leave. But when things are out of hand, he finally decided to use his secret in order to stop them from leaving the island. I believe Tom has the ability to easily create solutions to the problem, but he can always make other people follow him at all times. He failed to convince them to stay for long because he also misses home. He has no future plans and does not consider the consequences of his actions. I don't think so. He can be a good leader. It is because he is still immature to plan and make decisions. He is more focused on enjoyment than their safety, and even encourage them to stay on the island and try some vices which are not good for their health and welfare. That's all, ma'am.
Your response, Miss Jamaica, is that Tom is not a good leader because of his immature plans and decisions, which he bases on enjoyment rather than safety. It is true, Miss Jamaica. A good leader should plan for the future while keeping the welfare and health of its members in mind. It is very true and excellent response, Miss Jamaica.
Thank you, ma'am.
Who among the story's characters explicitly criticize racism? Explain why it is an explicit condemnation of racism. Can I hear your response, Miss Jamaica?
I think, mom, one of the character in the adventure of Tom Sawyer
who shows explicit condemnation of racism is Huck. So it is true using the word nigger. So Huck proclaimed this statement: "That's a mighty good nigger. Tom, he likes me because I don't act as if I was above him. Sometimes I sit right down and eat with him." So Hawk referred the word nigger to Jim. So some villagers in the book use the word nigger with extreme negative connotation and prejudice. Though Tom and Huck use the word as something positive or comical to Jim, but still it refers to the discrimination of their race, as this is how the society named them as slaves and under power.
Your response is quite different, but it is still acceptable and rational. It is indeed different from how Tom and Huck perceive the word nagger, but the story perceives and consider it racism, just as society perceives and refers to slaves. We differ because of our individuality. But let us not forget that we should follow the norms and standards that society establishes because it is for our own good, but it does not apply for all. So very good, Miss Jamaica.
Thank you, ma'am.
How about you, Miss Rhoda May?
Okay, so for me, I think the most explicitly criticized racism is from the character of Huckleberry Finn. So aside from being the white boy, he has the thought that everyone should be treated equally and not slavery, just like his friendship towards Jim, who was a black young boy.
Your response, Miss Rhoda, is very true. Because Huckleberry Finn understands that everyone should be treated equally and that slavery should be imposed. In fact, he befriended Jem, so he understands Jem's feelings about slavery. Let us continue with Miss Paula.
So for me, Hawk is the one who condemned racism because just like any other people in the village, Hawk himself developed stereotypes that slaves are less valuable. So most people in the village are racist towards these slaves because they see slaves as property. So as the story progresses, Hawk perception changed when he met Jim, the runaway slave. So he developed sympathy towards the slave that Hawk realizes that Jim is like any other human being because Jim is nicer in many ways. So that event completely turned around his way of thinking.
For you, Miss Paula, one of the story's characters who explicitly criticizes racism is Huck, who developed stereotypes about slaves being less valuable and only seen as property. Later, when he met Tom, he completely changed his way of thinking. I agree with your points of view. Huck clearly criticizes racism in the story for the following reasons: are less valuable and only seen as a property. As the story progresses and he met Tom, he realized that Tom is nice in a variety of ways. So very good, Miss Paula.
Thank you, ma'am.
Last but not least, Miss Elia Joy.
So the character is that it is Huckleberry, or best known as Hunk. It's because the character is showing racism in the way that how they talk about slavery. So there's one scenario or one chapter that focuses on slavery.
Evidently, Huck is the character in the story who illustrates racism in the way they discuss slavery. Just like, as Miss Paula stated, slaves are less valuable and are only seen as property. It is true, Miss Elia, and it's very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Number 4 questions. What moral values did you gain from reading The Adventures of Tom Sawyer? Explain these values. Can I hear your answer, Miss Rhoda May?
Because there were lots of moral values I gained from the characters of the story. And I will focus on the main character, which is Tom Sawyer. So aside from being a mischievous boy, he also shows kindness, honesty, and unselfishness. This good side of him is observed until the very end of the story by helping and never leave anyone behind.
For you, Miss Rhoda, Tom Sawyer's moral values are his kindness, honesty, and selflessness. You are very good at observing. It is the value he possesses, which he clearly demonstrates by helping everyone and never leaving anyone behind. You have made an excellent observation, Miss Rhoda.
Thank you, ma'am.
How about you, Miss Elia Joy?
The moral lesson that I gained from the story is that it's not hard to find a friend, but it's hard to let them stay. Along with that, love the people around you. No one is perfect, but loving them means a lot to them.
Your answer, Miss Elia, is that the moral values you gain from the story are that the commitment of a person to stay by your side is difficult to find. It is true that it is difficult to find someone who will always be by your side through ups and downs. So very good, Miss Elia Joy. It is very relatable.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let us continue with Miss Jamaica.
The Adventure of Tom Sawyer, ma'am, emphasizes different moral values such as kindness, loyalty, bravery, and selflessness. So when it comes with kindness, it can be seen to some of the characters of the stories such as Aunt Polly. So kindness has always been in her heart for Tom despite of being hard-headed and his mischiefs. When it comes with bravery, Tom and Huck was able to portray that value. Even though they were still young, they were able to control their fear and worries. They stood for Muff, who has been blamed for the death of Dr. Robinson. Another example is their bravery to live in the island. And lastly, Tom's bravery to save Kenny's life from being trapped from the cave. And even though he was able to encounter Injunjo inside the cave, he faced his fear, defeated him, and managed to find a way out safely. Additionally, the value of loyalty and selflessness are prominent in the story. So Tom and his friends testify Muff's innocence and fight for him in the trial. Muff has been a very good friend to them, so as friends, they prove their loyalty and support by exposing the real culprit of the crime. So furthermore, their selflessness almost lead them to danger, but they know that their friend need them the most, so they risk their lives to save Muff from the crime that he did not commit. That's my answer.
Your response, Miss Jamaica, as a whole moral values of the story entails kindness for Aunt Polly, because kindness has always been in her heart for Tom, despite her hard-headedness and mischiefs. The second value is bravery, which applies to Tom and Huck because they were able to control their fear and worries despite their young age, as well as his friend's ability to survive the island on their own despite the difficulties they faced. Loyalty and selflessness are demonstrated by the fact that they defend Muff despite the danger, demonstrating their loyalty and support. Your explanation and observations are excellent, Miss Jamaica.
Thank you, ma'am.
Last but not least, Miss Paula.
So, for me, the value that I gained from reading this story is that the truth may be hard to speak, but it will feel good afterward. So, the fact that Tom felt horrible after being silent, even though he witnessed what happened in the graveyard scene. So, this also applies to anyone who is in the same situation as Tom. Most people need bravery when experiencing in this kind of situation because it's not easy. So even though the evidence is right in your mouth, but you cannot say it because of being scared. So running away from it can make you feel horrible and guilty in your life. So it may be hard at first, but later on, the heavy guilt we felt or someone else feels will live and eventually fade.
It is indeed to tell the truth about what you have witnessed as heinous. People who are cowards will not do anything good for themselves. Instead, they will feel guilty and horrible about themselves. So being brave and telling the truth is a good thing because we have a law, and law protects innocent people like Tom. The satisfying results of telling the truth will make you happy, and the heavy guilt will be lifted from your shoulders. Very good, Miss Paula.
Thank you, ma'am.
Number 5 questions. What lessons can you gain from the story's characters? Can I hear your answer, Miss Paula?
So for me, in Tom's character, I like how his character develops as the story progresses. So the flow of the story shows a better character in the process of the story from a bad one. So what I have learned in Tom's character is that being responsible of the actions that we did because our actions have consequences. So this shows that Tom matures in the process of the story as he knows what is right and wrong, though it will endanger him.
That is very true, Miss Paula. Every action a person takes has consequences. It is very true because if you choose to remain silent, the consequences will only cause guilt. Whereas if you choose to tell the truth despite the danger, the consequences will be overwhelming because you will be helping the innocent people. Tom's maturation as the story progressed assisted him in determining the right and wrong of his actions. Very good, Miss Paula. How about you, Miss Jamaica?
One of the characters, ma'am, that I liked most was Aunt Polly. She was the guardian of Tom Sawyer who was obliged to raise him well despite of his mischiefs. From her character, I realized that punishments and being strict was not bad at all. Back when I was a kid, I can't hardly understand why my parents would scold or beat me, and then afterward they would say that they do that because they love me. I was confused because I thought that when you love someone, you would not attempt to hurt him or her. Just when I become an adult, I finally understand its purpose. Naturally, parents get angry, give rules and punishments in order to discipline their children. They want their kids to learn what's good and the bad things. They cared for us, that is why they have their own ways to lead us to the right path of life. So, it will surely help us to become responsible individual that will contribute to our personal character and growth. It's all, ma'am.
It is true, Miss Jamaica, that when we were young, we thought that loving someone should not hurt them. But as we grow older, we realized what reality is. We became more matured and we knew the good and bad things. We grew wiser as we grew older, in contrast to our thinking as children, when our experiences and thinking were limited, and we had a limited wisdom and thinking. So Excellent explanation, Miss Jamaica. Let us continue with Miss Ella Joy.
I choose Tom's aunt, which is Aunt Polly. So, no one will love you as much as your family. You can run to them when you're happy, sad, angry, frustrated, or even frightened. Aunt Polly is always there for Tom, no matter what happened. She loves Tom when nobody did, even though the Tom is a rebellious kid. That's all.
Miss Alaya chooses Aunt Polly as one of the story's characters. Aunt Polly teaches you that no one will love you as much as your family. It is very true because your family is there for you when you are going through good and bad times in your life. So Aunt Polly is a wonderful guardian for Tom. Regardless of what Tom has done to his guardians, they still love him. So very good, Miss Elia. Last but not least, Miss Rhoda May.
So there were lots of lessons I gained from the character of Tom Sawyer. So I was once an active and a mischievous child, not minding the consequences towards my action. And I learned from it the importance of listening to the elders and following rules.
It is very true, Miss Rhoda, that as children we tended to push the boundaries set by our parents. It is important that we listen to our elders, follow the rules, and be honest because it is all for our own good. So that's all. Thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next presenter.
Okay, so now I am Paula April S. Toledo, your word wizard for today. So now I have prepared 3 words from the story that are somewhat unfamiliar to you. So I will be calling someone to give her own meaning based from the words that I chose, okay? So the first word that I chose is vexed, which is found in page 6. So it is stated in this word that Aunt Polly was vexed to think she had overlooked that bit of circumstantial evidence and missed a trick. So based from the context, Rhoda, can you give me your own definition?
Okay, so Vix is a feeling of being annoyed or distressed on someone, just like Aunt Polly feeling stressed towards Tom's action, who always tricks her.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. What about you, Jamaica?
Based on the sentence, ma'am, I think the meaning of Vix is being annoyed to someone or something, or in Tagalog, nayamot. For example, Aunt Polly was really annoyed for not being able to trick Tom and catch his lies. That's all, ma'am.
Thank you, Jamaica. How about Freya?
Vexed means irritated, perplexed, or concerned.
Thank you, Freya. Now, how about Elea Joy?
For me, ma'am, vexed is when someone is annoyed or frustrated about something that he's not quite happy about it.
Okay, so thank you everyone for your answers. So, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, vexed is the feeling or showing irritation, annoyance, or distress. So, naka-feel na ba mo ging ani? Vexation or pagkalagot?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so naka-feel na mo ging ani, no? So we feel vexed in stressful situations or for variety of reasons. So like you feel vexed or irritated because you don't understand the module or the lesson, or your sister did not give you a slice of cake, no? So we feel irritated, annoyance, or vexed. So in this context, Aunt Polly was feeling irritated or vexed, or sabi siya pa, naglagot siya. So sa pagkahuna-huna niya, nawala niya nabantayan ang gamay na ebidensya o nabantayan nga limbong. Now, The second word is alacrity, that is found in page 15. So in this context, Tom gave up the brush with reluctance in his face but alacrity in his heart. So based from the context, Jamaica, can you give me your own definition of alacrity?
I think, Mom, the word alacrity refers to showing cheerful willingness or eagerness, or in Tagalog, may kasiglahan. For example, Tom seems reluctant to give up the brush to Ben, but honestly in his heart, he was cheerfully willing to give it up to him so that he can have much time to rest. That's all, ma'am.
Thank you, Jamaica. How about you, Elia Joy?
Alacrity, ma'am, for me is when you show being a cheerful person when you receive something, for example, a gift. So you are so alacrity that you receive something from other person.
Thank you, Elia Joy. How about Rhoda?
Okay, so alacrity is someone who is feeling delighted, just like Tom feels when his friend offers to whitewash the fins instead of him. So Tom feels very glad that he was no longer have to finish the work.
Thank you, Rhoda. How about Freya?
Alacrity refers to eager willingness or readiness, which is frequently exhibited by quick, lively action.
Okay, thank you, Freya. So, thank you everyone for your answers. So, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, alacrity is the promptness in response or cheerfulness, readiness. So in this context, na nagduha-duha si Tom og hatag sa brush, pero sa iyahang kasing-kasing ganahan di ay to niya ihatag. So have you felt this way?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you felt this way, no? Na as if na di ni mo ipakita na dili ka ganahan, but deep inside, ganahan di ay to. No, like when your friend offers you a snack, but you said you're full or ni balibad ka, but deep inside you really want to taste the snack that was offered to you. Okay? So, the third or last word is morosely. So, it was found in this context that he knew in her heart his aunt was on her knees to him, and he was morosely gratified by the consciousness of it. So, Freya, for you, what is your own definition of morosely?
Morosely means very serious, unhappy, quiet, gloomy, or in a bad mood.
Okay, thank you, Freya. How about Jamaica?
I believe, Ma'am, morosely means being unhappy or pagiging malungkot in Tagalog. For example, Aunt Polly was really unhappy for falsely blaming Tom with the broken sugar container, which said was truly the one who intentionally broke it to trouble Tom. That's all, Ma'am.
Thank you, Jamaica. How about you, Elia Joy?
So, morosely is when you are feeling sullen about something that you're not quite happy about it. So, you are sullen, for example, I am morosely because you didn't invite me to your birthday. So, that's all, ma'am.
Thank you, Elia Joy. How about you, Rhoda?
Okay, so morosely is the feeling of sadness or grievedness that hit on someone, just like Tom feels towards Aunt Polly when he realized what he did was wrong and feels sorry about it.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. Thank you, everyone, for your answers. So, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, morosely is marked by or expressive of gloom, sullen, and gloomy. So, morosely is feeling of sadness. Is also a feeling of sadness and darkness daw. So, have you ever felt like this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you felt this way. No, life is so full of situations that make you feel this way. So in this chapter, Tom was accused wrongly by her aunt that that she thought that Tom was the one who broke the sugar bowl, even though it was Sid. So in this context, so kabaw si Tom na sa kasing-kasing sa iyahang aunt Polly was on her knees or meaning begging to him. So og nalungkot na nalipay po siya sa paghibaw ani. Okay, that is all for the word wizard presentation.
Thank you, Fairies, for your presentations. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer was a story that will help the reader to remember and reflect. Let's talk about remembering. By reading the book, it actually brings us to the feeling of our childhood years, such as the innocence of doing what we like, driven by our curiosity, or to act freely and live life without concerning about money, expectations of the society, or plans that assures one's life, like what adults do. It reminds us of how it feels to become playful and imaginative that brings us to a world that only us knows how it exists. The sense of excitement to wake up without worries or doubts to count, but rather the adventures and explorations that we can share with our friends and loved ones. On the other hand, the story will make us reflect from our childhood experiences. First and foremost is about chores. Sometimes we hated household chores because it delays our plays or planned outdoor activities with our peers. We even tried to escape from this responsibility at home because for us this is a boring work. But seeing Tom, it makes us realize that chores can be fun if we decide it to be, just like what happened on whitewashing the fence. Sometimes kids cannot see the positive benefit of doing household chores at their home. It actually teaches kids with basic skills of living and to become a responsible individual as they grow. And on the other hand, um, it also makes us understand that it is necessary to create rules to follow and punishments to do in order to remind kids that their actions have limits as well and they have to respect the authorization of their parents, which eventually will help them to become disciplined person. Next realization is to think twice with your words and actions. Tom was really impulsive in planning and making decisions. He is too rushed to do things on his own without considering its consequences, which leads him to different problems and troubles. With that way, we can reflect that it is important to be careful in making decisions since it can affect your future. Always remember, think of your words and actions as if they were your last. Furthermore, the story teaches us the value of honesty. We witness how Tom honestly confesses the innocence of his friend Muff. It brings us to the realization that telling the truth feels good. Additionally, honesty comes with bravery. If no one had stood up for Muff at that time, then he will be blamed from the crime that he did not commit. It is such a good thing to do what was right because you were able to save one's life. Last but not least is we came to understand the importance of problems or adversities in life. Though we don't really like problems, but it can make us stronger. Just like Tom, The problems and the troubles he encountered made him even stronger to face his fears. So that ends our video. I hope you learned something from it. Thank you and mabuhay. Bye!